Test. 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 Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. I don't really know how this fucking sounds. Test. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? La 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 la. La la la. Da 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 ba 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 ba. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. 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 Hello, hello, hello. La la la. Da 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 ba 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 ba. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. 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 La la la. Da da da. Test. 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 does this sound? How does this sound?
Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
How does this sound? How does this sound?
Test, test, test.
Let's see the fucking screen.
Test, test, test.
Something gorgeous out, isn't it?
I know, right?
Bed. How are you?
Good. How are
Do I
you?
need to sign in anywhere? Yeah. First class here, so.
man.
Beautiful, isn't
Yeah.
it?
yeah.
I think you were sitting next to me.
One weird Florida year.
Yeah, it has been. Definitely, it has been so strange. And my best friend just moved to Clearwater, and all I could talk about was the weather, and I'm so embarrassed.
Old El Nino does for
Oh,
us.
yeah, hey, at least it's not snow like they're getting. I'll take it.
You follow along with your tablet and these?
This is my first class here. I was in the Cape just for like a month, and I only took one or two classes there, and yeah, they did there. I usually try to just follow along and take notes. I'm so into it.
Yeah, I have trouble
Yeah.
moving from the screen to keep up with them, and then
Exactly.
I lose my place.
Yeah. So, like I said,
Yeah, so I'm, a lot of
I
people are
wouldn't-
hell a lot better than I am.
Yeah.
With electronics.
I wouldn't go back that way. Don't worry about it. You know, they teach these things all the time. If you feel you need to come back and bring your computer.
Well,
Coffee?
the biggest thing I'm
Yeah.
interested in is trying to get the mailing label.
Yeah. Did you sign in? And then
There you go.
I took this paper, because it said mailing labels and everything else was paper.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to take it or.
Oh, dude.
Do you want some coffee?
No, I'm good, thanks.
There it is, yeah.
He's gonna probably call you within the day. Sign up anyway, just to. And you can ask him a lot of questions about that. He's gonna tell you about me too. I can teach you stuff, but ask him a lot of basics. Ask him a lot of questions. Because when you sit down with me, then we can iron out specifics.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. That's loud. Do not project my voice as loud when I use this thing. How is everybody? Dry out? All right. Turn that phone on. So, who has been using Realist so far? Anybody? Just you? Nobody? Dabbling with it? A little bit? A lot of it? Review.
I used to use it a lot a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I haven't so much lately, that's when it
Okay. A little refresher. Just make this thing not too loud, but. Well, the main thing that Realist, well, there's two main things that Realist is for. But what you want to, first of all, you want to get it through the MLS. So click Realist Tax in the MLS and it'll kick you over. It'll load up eventually. The way Realist works is that it pulls in all the public information. So what you're going to see, if you need any of that information, I know you can go to Leap and get all that stuff. Realist, in my opinion, is a lot nicer to look at. It's a lot easier to find the information. And it's free. And there's some other stuff you can do with it. So in each listing as well, the PID numbers are always blue and underlined. That means you can click it. And if you click it, it opens the full Realist summary. So you don't need to do what I'm doing. Click in the Realist, do this, query the address, find it, click on it, open it. You don't have to do all that. You can get that. You can basically shortcut right from the listing if you need information. Obviously, it's not a listing. You have to go in here and find it. Either you're going to use Realist to find information about a single property, or you're going to go into Realist because Realist has all these fields by which you can search for one or more properties. Usually what this program is used for is to make manual. Yeah. So we'll go through all that. Top to bottom, left to right, just a few things before I start clicking through stuff. You've got, it always defaults to this search, right? Some preferences that you can set and play with is just some of your search options, some of your options for your reports, your comparables report, your market trends report. All these settings in here will apply to what you get to see here. I'll just open any listing and open the full report. Click on the PID. And if I launch Realist, it should bring up that property in Realist. Okay. So now I'll double click to open this. Okay. So this is the source right here. Whenever you see any public information, this is the source right here. This is the property detail page for whatever you want to look at, right? Comparables, market trends, neighbors, neighborhood profile, foreclosure, assessor map, flood map. You get a tab. You get those tabs for every individual property. So when you're looking at these settings here under preferences,
Obviously, you can set what your market trends report gives you, what your neighbors report will give you, and all that stuff. So if you don't really, if you don't really go through and use this for comparables, I don't necessarily suggest using this for comps. Your market trends, that's where you can get some good information. If you don't really go through any of this stuff, it doesn't really pertain. It's not very relevant. Comparables, I don't necessarily recommend it just because there are a few tools that are better, and for some reason it's just the functionality isn't what it could be. Neighbors, actually I skipped market trends. Market trends is actually good. Completely off topic from what Realist is. If you need content, everyone always talks about like, oh, running the blog's a good idea, or having pages on your website's a good idea for whatever, or your email blasts, or your direct mail, which is what we're going to talk about. This is a good place to get some information about the market. This information has to do with a few different things, actually. Median sales prices, percentage of properties purchased above or below current value. What's that? What I'm doing is I went into an MLS listing. I clicked the PID number in the listing, and then it brought me to the Realist property detail report. Top left of that report, it says launch Realist. And then you can view it in Realist. It's all the same thing, but if you view it out of Realist, you can't access all these other tabs. So you have to get into Realist on that same property. Like I said, you can get to it through the MLS listing, and it gives you a preview, it gives you the full report, but you're essentially previewing it. If you launch Realist, it takes you into Realist, and you view the same thing. Hopefully I'm not losing anybody when I'm saying that. Are you still lost? Okay, all right. So this is good information if you like, market trends and statistics, and you want to learn stuff and write about stuff or blog about stuff or whatever, just to become a little bit more knowledgeable about what's going on. It's not a bad idea to go in here and take a look at some of this stuff. Neighbors, exactly what it says is exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a breakdown of every property that comes up on that map. Obviously, in preferences, you can set what, how many properties and how far it goes out for that. Again, not necessarily very relevant, but it's there. Demographics, just more good information about the area, your assessor map, your flood map, and all that stuff. Through this property detail report, you get the owner information, you get the location information, you get the tax information. Now the tax information, you can see you can click that again, right? If I click that again, it'll take me to Lipa. And on that property search page, when you actually going to search for a property, you type in an address or a PID or whatever. If I click that link, it opens Lipa and it auto-fills the PID number. And all I have to do is click search. So there's an automated function in there that will essentially fill the field with the PID number exactly how it's supposed to be. So if you're having issues, you can do that. So like I said, all I have to do is click search, and I'm here and I can see everything. All your tax information for the last few years, your characteristics, features, listing information. So there's your MLS information, your previous sales, everything. So there you go. Foreclosure history, because this is a foreclosure. So you get everything. Help, just some obvious stuff. If you forget everything we talked about, you can learn a lot about this program just by looking through some of those documents that they have uploaded about helping you. Okay, so like I said, you've got those two tabs up there. You've got that quick search tab, which you default to be on when you get into Realist. If you have an address, an owner name, an MLS number, a PID number, type it in and get after it. But if you don't, here's all your different tabs, or I'm sorry, fields. They call them attributes. If you see at the bottom left, don't know if it's blurry back there for you, but it's kind of for me up here. It used to be really clear. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, at the bottom left there, not the blue button, the one next to it, says edit attributes. Well, that's they refer to fields as attributes. So the attributes are the fields by which you can search. What will default for all of you is like half of them. So you have to go in and essentially add the fields that you want to add. Now, Realist is really only used for two things, like I said. It's either finding information about one property or gathering together a bunch of properties because you want the information to export it, or you want the information because you want it to make labels for you so you can so essentially that's what this class is all about. Is that what most of you guys are interested in, getting those labels out? Right? Yes. Yes, okay, all right. Well, there's actually a bunch of different ways you can do it, but it all depends on what the goal is. Does anybody have a purpose in mind for what they want to mail? What kind of mail piece they want to create? Anybody? Shout out. No ideas? Yes.
I like your marketing.
Well, what about
Well, get the name, address, and get the,
it? No. What about the mail piece? You're gonna mail to 400 people. What are you gonna tell them? What are you gonna ask them? What are you gonna let them know?
just show them something on this list.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you want to basically hit everybody around to let them know that a property just listed or just sold or whatever. Okay.
Not primarily, a lot of times.
Right. Okay. Well, that in and of itself is that's obviously one way to do it. There is a way that you can target people that live there, or you can mail to the property, but you're going to mail to someone who doesn't live there. Now, the difference is you can do owner occupied, yes or no. That's the name of the field in Realist. But what you're doing is you're filtering out people who, whether or not that property is homestead. So if I say owner occupied, yes, then it's going to take out all the properties that aren't homestead, second home, or it's a rental or whatever. You'll never know. A lot of people say, well, I know the renters. Well, we don't have access to apartment numbers and addresses and stuff like that. So you're only going to mail to properties that people, with single family homes and condos and stuff. Well, you can't know if that property is being rented. If I buy a house for investment purposes and I start renting it out, the only person who potentially has that documented is the company that I hired to manage it for me, if I even do that. So there's no one way to know, but owner occupied is usually one of the first ways that you can start, is making sure that you're either going to just drop to every mailbox regardless, because you could do that and you could say, hey, this property, or this is what's going on in the market, email them, whatever. You're trying to reach people who may want to sell. So you can either, if the call to action is broad enough, it really doesn't matter when you reach your card, because you could hit someone who owns the place and they're ready to sell and buy, or you could hit the renter you're going to hit the renter who lives next door and he's ready to buy something. So you really don't know. So it really all has to do with the content of the mail piece.
So you're saying you could actually separate that field, and get just the homestead,
Yes.
which would be the owners.
Yes. Right. You know that they live there because they homesteaded that property. Not sure why you homestead the property.
If you separate that, I mean, just turn around and go for that same area, just go for non-homestead, get all the renters and turn it up.
Exactly. If it's something basic like that, right. You can find everyone who has that veterans exemption. You can find everyone who has that disabled exemption, whatever that exemption is. There's a few in there. I'll pull them up. So what I want to do is go through these fields and give you some ideas, because that's really the only reason why we're here. Okay, so as you see on the left-hand side, owner information, location information, characteristics, listing information, assessment and tax, sales information, foreclosure and distress, mortgage information. So you've got essentially 8 different categories that have fields by which you can search. Owner information, I know that it doesn't default to adding the state. So I always recommend going in and when you're adding or taking off the attributes you do or don't want, definitely want to add owner address state. Okay. Now the column on the right hand side is not only the column or the fields that I have that I can search with, but that column shows you the order in which they're going to sit over here. Right? So if I didn't have owner address state on there and I check that box, it's going to go down to the very bottom of my list. So for organization and my own to please myself, I'm going to click on that, hold it, and drag it up under all the other owner information up top. And as you can see, I don't have it up there. It's right down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click it and drag it up right under owner zip code. And now when I click apply, that field over on the left-hand side, it's grayed out, but it will be right under owner address zip code now. So just like the additional fields in the MLS, when you add or remove an additional field, you have the box of available fields to use, and on the right-hand side, you have the fields that you've selected. In that box, you can actually reorder them too. So that's a little tidbit about your search page in the MLS. So this works the same way. It's CoreLogic. It's the same program that makes this, who makes our MLS. So functionality is sort of similar. So that's how that works. So you can stay a little more organized. So you're going to need owner address state. Now you have owner information and you have location information. I'd say the lot number doesn't necessarily, you don't need it. But the property, city, address, zip, subdivision, zoning, not really. Subdivision number, not necessary. But site influence. If you see it on the right-hand side towards the bottom, I have fourth from the bottom, I have site influence. That's where you can specify canal, waterfront, what is influencing that parcel of land, essentially, for lack of a better term. I don't know why they call it that, but maybe the way I defined it is probably the way they thought of it. So those are some of the fields you need. Now, you notice we have owner information and location information. So those are fields by which you can search with respect to the location of the property and the owner of the property. And a lot of people are, well, some of our members that when we're talking about this, they're saying, oh, so I can mail to people who own here and they live up in Pennsylvania because they're from Pennsylvania or whatever. Yes, that's exactly right. Because you can fill out a field about the property and say this, I want the properties that exist in 33904 in Southeast Cape Coral, but I want to target everybody who lives in Pennsylvania. And you can do that because you have owner address state now. So the owner address is in Pennsylvania, but the property zip code is in 33904. So you can do that. So that's what I'm talking about, and we're going to see more and more about. It all depends on the theme of the mail piece or whatever you're sending. Characteristics, the land use codes are filled out. Construction type is probably there, and lot acres is probably already there for you. Listing information, the sale date and the sale price. I think that's pretty much going to be it. Assessment and tax. There's your exemptions, your homestead exemption. There's your senior, your widow, your disabled, all that. Sales information, sale date and sale price. I like that sale date and sale price better than the MLS sale date and sale price. More so the date than the price. The price isn't necessarily relevant, but again, you can search by price, you can search by date. Price would be a good opportunity if you want to target a certain price point. If you really only want to pay attention to those high-end buyers, or you want to pay attention to those low-end buyers, we're flipping a lot, doing all this stuff. You've got investors who want to buy those properties at under $200,000. You can certainly target those people. people have circumstance you may find yourself in. So if you want to target, your different price points, searching by the price is a good way to do it. Searching by the date, there's technology out there, and if you haven't ever been to a trade show, a real estate trade show, mainly Florida Realtors does one, National Association does one, and if you didn't know, they always have it in Orlando. Florida Realtors always have it in Orlando. Well, it's the National Association, they go all over the country. Last year was in San Diego. But this year it's in Orlando. So if you haven't been to a National Association trade show, just to walk around the floor of the trade show, you don't have to go to any classes or anything like that. But it's probably worth going this year because of just the trade show alone. If you're interested in something that's going to make your life a little bit easier, there's technology out there and it has changed significantly. No one really knows what I talk about. I talk about our Agent 3000 program and that upgrade you can purchase that sort of replaces listing book and all that stuff. Our program is like everyone else's program. And so there's a lot of different stuff out there that can make your life easier. Namely technology that will give you leads in the form of names and addresses and all that stuff. I don't know what else you necessarily get out of that. But what they do is they give you potential leads. They're going to sell you potential leads, but part of the technology, what it does is it looks at when they sold, or I'm sorry, when they look at the sale date. So when they purchased, they're looking at the market trends, and they're just assuming that that person may be ready to sell. So if they're looking at dates and prices and market trends, well, you know the market trends in your area. Certainly you know the market trends in your farm area, or you should better. And you can target people who have purchased properties, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Someone bought a lot in 2009, 2010, or 20 lots. I always say, ask someone who owns a lot why they own a lot. There's really no other reason that you own a lot except to either build on it or buy it and flip it in 4 or 5 years. Just buy it, wait it out, and get rid of it. Make a little bit of money. Well, I don't know for how much longer this is all going to last, but if you ever wanted to make some money and you bought a lot a few years ago, now is the time to do it. So when we get to, there's fields for the lot information, and you can single out the fact that it's going to be a residential lot. So you can filter out all the properties and only get the parcels of land that don't have anything on them. So you can just get the lots out of Northwest Cape Coral. If you know some of the information, like if you pay attention to local politics in the city of Cape Coral, you'll know a lot about what they're doing, what they're building, what's going to influence the area. Off Pine Island, that road used to be empty. Now it's not only widened and more accessible, but they're building, they put in that whole Sam's Club and that whole plaza. It brings in people, attracts people. It used to not be attractive at all to live out in, what seems like the middle of nowhere, but it's not the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of empty land out there. So that's something to think about. So the sale date and sale price are certainly something you can target.
So I didn't get your name.
Brad.
Brad, are you able to search as well, like in the MLS, I'll do the circle of area, like say if I have the corner of Chiquita and Cape Coral, I want everything basically south of that, that quadrant, I'm able just to search it.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get through all these fields, and I'm going to do that. And show you exactly how to do it. Foreclosure information, if you want to add the foreclosure stages to target those, you certainly can. And knowing the name of the lender, I'm not really sure that's even relevant. So, all right, so now we have our fields. Well, your sale price, for instance. If you see the little is between little word here, well, that's clickable because I can change it, and it says sale price is between, sale price is greater than, sale price is less than. When you're searching the current price of an active listing and you're using that current price field, you can type it in 4 different ways. You can type in 200, look for properties that are listed at exactly 200,000. 200,000 to 300,000, 200,000 minus 2,000. plus. Well, that's the same thing here, and that's how you change that setting, because for now you've got two different boxes because it's between 2 and 300,000. But if you want to just go greater than, then it just turns into one field. So that's how those work. With respect to zip codes, for instance, I've had members who are doing this and they want to use, they said, well, I want to find people in North Carolina, but they own down here in Cape Coral. Well, you're going to surprise yourself on any area of the country. If you target a specific zip code, then use any of the other 49 states and only the city of Cape Coral or Fort Myers, you're going to get a lot more results than what you thought you'd get. So what I suggest when you're starting this is think about how you want to target, because this all comes down to how much you're willing to spend, how much you have to spend. So the first thing before you even use this program to get out the information is, what am I going to target, how much money do I have to spend, and how am I going to go about this? Well, if you want to look at people from a certain area but they own here or whatever, you have to, first of all, run the whole search and figure it out. Well, if they live in North Carolina but they own here, you got way more than 1,000 results, and you can only see 1,000 at a time. Mailing to 1,000 people is really expensive. So you have to narrow that down. Whether you want to narrow it down and focus on one zip code due to the city at a time, you can do that. You can put a big, you could buy a map and put it up on your wall, and once you do 33904, outline it, and with a black marker, okay, that's done this month. And then we're going to do this section next month, and this section that month. So you can do that, and it all depends on how much money you have and what the purpose is for the search. So with respect to the question that I got a few minutes ago, if you want to do everything west of Chiquita and south of the Parkway, that's what you want to do right there? Okay. Up at the top right, I don't know if you can see it, but at the top right, there's a little pencil. Looks like a pencil. If you click it, it brings out your drawing tools. Now, just like with the MLS, using a perfect circle, well, if you'd use anything in Cape Coral, you'd use a perfect four-sided shape. You wouldn't use a circle. Nothing's mapped out in a circle. So the radius is out. Using the rectangle, I don't necessarily like it either, because the polygon's the best by far, because you can click 78 different times and make a 78-sided shape, and you can draw in exactly what you need. So what you would do is just go out here, click, 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 and click your starting point. It's pretty simple, but now, just like in the MLS, again, because the searches are pretty much the exact same thing. You told it where, now you have to tell it what. Essentially what you're doing on the map is defining the lot information, the property information. You've still got fields for the owner information. You've still got fields for prices and dates and exemptions. As you can see, the property fields are grayed out because I can't filter it out. I'm smaller than a zip code, I'm smaller than a city, but I'm not smaller than an address. That's why the address isn't grayed out. So we told it where, now we got to tell it what. Lot acres, construction type, you can filter out by that. Total assessment, your land use. This is where you can use the land use to filter out your lots. Your exemptions, your site influence. Let's see if we get waterfront. We should have waterfront down here at the bottom of the list. There, waterfront right there. So you could filter out by waterfront. If you're going to use, say, and this is where I was kind of going with that rant a little bit ago. If you grew up in I forget the zip code. It's like somewhere in New Jersey. Coincidentally, there's like 3 or 4 different people asked me the same question. They had the same zip code. You can type in your zip code, hit the little plus symbol, and then add more zip codes. So it just gets added to the list. I can add 10 zip codes right here, and it's going to search for people that live in that area. So let's go ahead and see what we find. Anybody who lives there, probably either nothing or just a few.
Does, for example, a lot of municipalities have,
Not now.
more than one tip, like a 49501, 2, 3, and so on. Can you use like a star or a pound to catch all those in that municipality or the city?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know exactly how those fields work with respect to using like that wild card for a search. I don't think so. I think that the function I just showed you is probably what you need. So let's see what we can get here. Is between, yeah. So you just need to just tack them on one at a time. But again, you want to do it one at a time because if you have an overall strategy that's bigger than just what you're doing this time, because like I said, you have to have a budget for this, and you're probably not going to do it all at once. So if you make some sort of a list, or do it in the form of a map and just draw it off, and you want to target the whole city, but then go where they live, zip code by zip code. We'll hit one zip code at a time, whatever like that. Then actually just add 2 or 3 at a time, and then make a list, and then just check those off the list. So it's makes it easy.
I had one question, just for the homestead, so that you could just the people who are living. So, in your list, you have somewhere where it said homestead exempt, you put in references, and then just click on it, I guess it's a click on versus.
Well, it's the owner occupied field. It's the field you want.
Like, so you just put in like it's Coral, and then it's quadrant.
We'll use this area. I don't think I have anything else filled out. Probably gonna be a lot. So we've got more than 1,000, and this is what happens when you have more than 1,000.
It's where it says owner occupied.
Yeah, 1,385. That's a shortcut to figure out exactly how much you're actually going to work with. I'll explain this whole step in a minute, but 1,385 properties out of that whole area. Oop. Yes. Yep. So that's, those are the only 2 fields I filled out, or that's the only field I filled out, plus I drew the area, and that's it. Is that what you want to, what you want to target people to make sure they live there?
Yeah, or vice versa. If you want it to, if it's June, if you want to mail, you want to capture those, just send them.
Right. Right, exactly. Okay, so we've got our fields. We open the edit attribute because this is eventually you'll do this at some point. For some reason, you need one of these fields. You'll go in, you'll edit attributes, you'll add the fields you want, you'll hit apply, and what you want to do now is go up to the top here, and you have these buttons. Okay, create new search, open search, save search, and you can clear it all out. So, and you can go back to what you've maybe recently done. A form and a search. Well, a form, if I get, hey, fill out this form. It has fields on it. You need to fill it out, right? Well, that's what you're doing. You're putting those fields down there on the left-hand side, and you're saving that as a form. In here, we have yes, no, continue. Everyone will have that property search with that little lock on it. It's locked because that's the administrator setting. They've added those forms, and that's just saved, and that's what everyone gets. As you see, I have a few more. And what I did was I just added a few and then I saved it. So what I did was I saved a form. I saved all those fields plus or minus a few, depending upon what I wanted, and then save as form. And now it's on that list. So what I did was I saved it, and later on, you click that little folder. Just click no. I don't know why that's coming up. And then here's your options. So comparable search, open, and there you go. So there, I did nothing really different. I didn't make a whole lot of changes when whatever I had added or taken off. But now I can work with that, with those fields. So you can have a different view altogether. A lot of this stuff you may never use, and if you never use it long enough and you're sick of scrolling down because you don't even need to scroll down, just take them all out, save it as a form, and you're done. And it's very quickly accessible. If you see, here, let's all draw. If you go in and now save as search. Well, if I didn't draw anything, there would be nothing there, so you couldn't save a search. But saving a search means you plug in something to search. So now you have the option to save it, because you plugged it in, the system recognizes, oh, there may be potential to save that, so they turn that feature on. So now you can save as a search. So if you give that a name, you can do that. So if you, what essentially you would want to do with that is you want to save certain areas or whatever fields you want to fill out, because you always want to go back to that. You're not taking a list and you're giving it to someone else and you need to refresh that list, but even if you do need to refresh that list and give it off to someone else, you still want the exact same properties that you used last time. So you want to save the search. So that's how you do that. And when you go ahead and click on that to open it, it will, on the type column, it will say search instead of form. So that's two different ways you can save all that stuff.
If their criteria changes while it's in your save, does it pull it from there and there's no longer in that criteria that you put in? Right now, it's, let's say you have owner occupied only and now it becomes unhomesteaded. It's not unhomesteaded. So you have to save in that square as that's my farm.
I hope this answers the question. If you save a search, which will query information that's targeting the homestead properties, and there's a property in there that's no longer homesteaded next month, and then you go search, that property shouldn't be included because it's no longer homesteaded, so it doesn't meet the criteria that you're searching.
So in your save, searches,
what you're saving is criteria.
okay, I got it.
You're not saving the results. Right. You're saving the fields that you filled out, and it's essentially saving the information that you plugged in. Does everyone follow that as well? Okay, cool. Yeah, because that's a good key piece of information that will probably help you or hurt you if you didn't know it. Let's see, what else? Does anybody have any questions so far? Are we? Yes, sir.
Brad, I mean, to take it one step farther, let's say, for instance, subdivisions, Cape Coral, Unit 74, are you allowed to kind of zero in on just giving everything? What's 74 mean? Is that the plat? Is that part of the plat?
I'm going to tell you I don't know. I apologize for that, but I don't know all that. I don't know how. So public domain is kind of weird. Even when you use the subdivision field, because they're not developments, they're not it's all subdivisions. If you don't type in the name of the subdivision exactly right, you won't find it. Kelly Greens is a really good example. You guys love Kelly Greens, it's a weird stuff. You all, and so whenever I go and help someone who wants to target it, and I type in Kelly Greens, half the time it doesn't work because I'm typing it in wrong. And Kelly Greens has like a bunch of, when you search for it, you find the results, it's like a huge list of it. Because every little side street or every little street with its own name or something like that, they all have their own name. Or a little designation with Kelly Greens, whatever, a little number or something like that. So I don't know what some of those numbers really mean. But I don't know if it's necessarily important that you even know, that you even care, because you know what you're looking for. But if you know where you want it to be, I think drawing, just like in the MLS, I think drawing is the easiest way to go, unless you're gonna go a whole zip code at a time. Using the predefined areas are good, but when you're talking about mail, using the predefined areas are big. Zip codes, developments, they're big. They're big areas, and you may not wanna be spending that much money all at once, because it could get very costly. I don't care how well you do. And that's quite a bit. So does that help a little bit?
It does.
Just like people use the geo area when I'm talking about searching, and they ask about the geo area because you guys used to have to use geo areas before all this awesome technology came along. So you know your geo areas, but a geo area is no different than a zip code. It doesn't really matter. So what the post office uses or what the public domain uses and what we use, geo areas, it's all the same. Just the lines are drawn a different way. You can know your area completely different and draw it, and it's all the same. So with respect to using the unit numbers or geo areas or whatever, it doesn't matter what you use. But I don't know what exactly the number is. I apologize for that.
My second part of the question is,
Sure.
assuming you can eliminate current listings, if that field says MLS listing number, do we eliminate bringing those up?
What you can do is kind of where I was going to go with this next, is show you the results and what you can do with the results, because that's really the name of the game. Once you find the information, you got to get it out. You got to do something with it.
Or put a disclaimer on there. Might be intended.
Well, you should do that anyway. Find out what it needs to say. This is going to say something. If you are working with a real estate agent, or you are currently on whatever it says, you should almost put that disclaimer on there. Yes, because you may be in certain situations where you are targeting certain properties. An expired listing, for instance, you got a stack of cards and you run your expires every day. Just drop them out every morning, right? And you hit an expired listing and it has a fresh listing for it, and they never wanted to we're not going to stay listed. Well, of course they want to get the property sold if they were listed. So if there's a fresh listing for it, you did target them. Well, you did target them whether they're fresh listing or not. So if you're targeting them and they're working with somebody, you got a problem. So make sure it always says that regardless of
You don't want that phone call.
you don't want that. All right, so let's do something with this so I can get some results. Let's do owner occupied no and see what we get. Okay, so we have 474 properties on this that aren't homesteaded in this area. It's quite a bit, right?
Is that out 13? Did we say before?
What's that?
Did we only say square?
No, I just drew something off. I'm in the same area, but I just drew something off. So, with respect to this column here, can I see it better? This is your MLS your MLS listing indicator. So, the green one is obviously active. So, what you can do is you can go through that list and you can uncheck your listed properties or anything that has a status attached to it if it's not sold. Go through, this one's pending, so you can manually go take those off the list. That's really the best way to do it. If you, we'll create labels. At this step in the process, you need to make sure everything's right because, first of all, it's going to give you a Word document. I struggle with this part on my Mac using Safari. Safari doesn't agree with that one function here to export the results. It doesn't export out of Safari. I open Firefox to do the same thing, and it gives me my file. But with all these different products, all these different websites, all these different programs that we use, sometimes there's a browser issue. Just have a different browser. Always have a second browser on your computer, sometimes a third. But usually if you have like a Google Chrome or a Firefox as a backup, my Firefox is my backup. It works. So over on the right-hand side, over on the left-hand side, whether you're doing 30 per page or 20 per page, and it even tells you the model number of your Avery labels. And it will on the box of labels you buy, it will tell you the model number. Allowed this month 12,500. If you're mailing 12,000 mail pieces, that's a lot. But no one really gets that far. But you will get that far if you're having trouble and you keep clicking create. Because once I click create, 471 labels are coming off my 12,500 number. So if I do this with like 1,000 addresses, but I screw up a few times, well, that's 4,000 or 5,000 labels that I technically went through that I can't go take that number off. So that's per month, and that'll refresh every month for you. So keep that in mind just in case. Over on the left-hand side again, you can use mixed case or all capital letters, and then you want to use the tax billing address. You can use the property address, and you can just use show current owner. You can use the property address, show current owner, if you're targeting those people, those properties that are not homesteaded, to see if you can, grab some of those records maybe. But you want to normally use, if you want to get to the owner, you want to use the tax billing address, and you want to have all those boxes checked too, because it says show current owner, include the foreign address, eliminate duplicate labels, and then you can create a custom label if you want. So realistically, you don't need that last box. Then you just says check them all to be safe.
I've had some issues with the tax mailing address. One of them being, and this might just be lazy post office people, but I've got a ton of postcards returned to me using the tax mailing address.
I've heard that a few times. I don't necessarily know that that's an error with our program so much as it's, I don't know, it's weird. I had that too. I used to work in politics and I was a campaign manager, and we did a lot of door knocking. So what you're going to do with these is what I did this a lot. And we'd get a lot of them back, and I'd go in and I'd first Google the address. And this really says this is the address. Why didn't it go through? We get a lot of them, and it's just, we went to the house. That's why we're mailing them something. Our mail was a follow-up. We would knock on their door first, and I don't have an answer for it. I just don't know. I could never really figure it out because it's coming out of the public record, because our voter information, that's all public.
Tax information.
Right. So yeah, it's coming. The voter information is what they filled out. Well, unless they filled it out wrong. But you go Google it and find it. It's a normal address. I don't know. I really don't.
I think some big post office issue.
What percentage of your bulk did you get back?
I'd say maybe 10%, 15%.
That's not really the one that paid for it, yeah. But I don't know. I usually try to get the same
Yeah. And then the other thing is using that tax address this time of the year. A lot of those people out here rather than in Minnesota.
Right.
Which is just kind of
So that's
crapshoot.
another layer of something of those things that you need to consider. What time of year do you want to hit them? What's if you want to make sure they're here? Do you want to make sure they're up there? Whatever. Target areas of people who live down here, or who own down here, and they're living up in the blizzard. You know what I mean? Whatever. Right.
I've seen the mailman actually take it upon himself, if he's familiar with that route, and there comes builders, mail coming through, and they look into dismiss. They'll take it upon himself and take it back to the post office. Now, whether they're supposed to do
I
that.
get someone else's mail every day. I wish they'd keep that now in my mailbox. I open it. Should I open it? I do. They're all collection. It's all collection notices from the people who still live in my house.
Nobody wants it.
$1,000 here, $5,000 here. Oh well. I wish they'd do that in my mailbox. With respect to that, it's between I wish I was the resource that had the answer for that. But between the property appraiser's office, voter information for my situation I was just talking about, all these records and how they're maintained. I don't think there's anyone from the post office. I don't think there's any one person who's going to be able to have an answer for why all this is happening. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that that's cool. Like the post guy just pay you to put in the box. What do you do? I don't know, that's
I've seen
weird.
him do it because he would actually take the card out of the mailbox and say, okay, the Barnett's gonna be here between, October to December. I said, yeah, I think the other night I got to be here January 1.
Yeah. But they want the mail delivered there, they don't, it's weird.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, why do you do that?
Yeah, what if it's seasonal people and they wanted their mail there? Or the owner wants his mail there, but he doesn't live there. I don't know. There could, so many different situations with this whole conversation we're having. So just be aware of it. And if you have to experience it the hard way by getting 10% of your mail back, I mean, it's just whether it's something to expect or target at a different time of year, whatever the situation. A lot of it has to do with the theme of your mail piece as well. You might want to tailor that strategy overall because you're either getting a lot back or you're getting no responses or something like that. So I've seen people do a ton of different things.
You know, another thing I'm not sure about, you may not know either, but do they even forward a postcard? Like for example.
They should.
If the
I only got them back when it said no forwarding address.
Yeah, incorrect address or something.
Yeah, they should forward everything.
If it's first class,
They will. If not, they won't. They won't. Oh, okay. Oh, good.
It's both mail, they will not.
They won't forward it. They'll send it back. It's just takes the same amount of cost of sending it back as it does to forward.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that. Exporting the information, you can export the information. You can get your grid, and those are all the fields that you can export. And those fields obviously come in the form of columns on a spreadsheet. It's really all you're getting. And when you export, it does the same thing. It takes from that 12,500 limit that you get every month, and you can export the information. If I did this, it wouldn't work because, like I said, I'm on Safari and it wouldn't work. But Firefox, it'll do that little motion where it drops in my little folder and then it loads and I can open it or do whatever I need to do with it. So you need to find out what most of these fields won't even apply. You don't need any of it. You just need the address and you're good to go. So just make sure what you have, what you export, what your printer needs or whoever, if you're going to use a list like this, or you use a list for any other reason. Make sure you just have your fields ready to go. So, does anybody have any other questions about it?
why did you have a limit of
It's the same reason as why they limit you from emailing everybody in your reverse prospecting results all at one time. How many emails do you get a day?
I mean, if I wanted to make limits.
If people out, if the same people you get emails from every day would max out their 12,500 every single month. Probably more. There was no limit. They'd exceed 12,500. It's the same thing. Other agents that are sending you listings, they're going to max out their 12,000. So that's really the reason why. Everything will just get spammed every day. Everybody will just get free. But I didn't make the program. So it's an assumption. I really don't know. But they just like that. Just like they limit you from being able to mass email every single person who has looked at your listing. You can't do email them one at a time, but you can't just blanket email everybody. So it's the same thing. But that's their thing. They program that to limit you. You can call and ask them, but I just assume that it's just because they don't want you really sending out that much at all
Sorry, what
times.
was the question?
Question had to do with why there's a 12,500 label limit. Or it limits you on exporting things too, to the same number. So whether you're creating labels or exporting information, your limit is 12,500. But if you're exceeding that, then maybe you want to automate some of that. If you've got the funds to max out that number every month, you've probably got the funds to automate this. There are ways you can automate this. I know we're here to show this program, but I've seen some programs out there where you can automate all this stuff. And you don't necessarily need Realist to do it. I mean, Realist is a good way to start. In my opinion, you should do it. You should almost be doing it the hard way first and doing it just by this and get your list and handwrite some of this stuff. It's really effective when you handwrite stuff. I understand that could get time consuming, but I've seen one person fill out 20,000 cards over 2 campaigns on those. It's intense, but you win. You guys are the elected officials the same. You guys are the exact same in terms of what you're mailing, why you're mailing, who you're mailing to. So it could potentially be very effective. And if you use this stuff, and you do something like just do current owner or current resident, and don't put any information, no wet signatures or something like that. I mean, everybody gets that stuff. You guys are, a lot of, not you guys, but there's a lot of agents out there that are all kind of doing the same thing. So you have to differentiate yourself, you have to make it a little more personal. But the number one thing about mail is consistency. If you're not consistent, you've wasted every dollar you spent if you're not going to spend those dollars consistently. Furthermore, if you have a listing, I guarantee you someone on that street wants to know about it. If it sells, someone on that street wants to know what it sold for. I guarantee it. I live on a street, I live towards the end of the street, and it's a circle, so I live at the very end, and I just drive straight out to the end of the street, and I go on through the neighborhood to leave. And on my way out and back in, then every day I come back in, so I pass it twice a day. I passed, at any one point in time over the last year, in 2015, I passed 4 active listings. And no one told me about any of it. Not one listing agent or other agent in the office. If you work at a brokerage where everyone's kind of, we share listings in terms of like what you can market, and hey, can I do one open house? If you guys are if you all have that type of relationship and the listing agent isn't doing that, you should be doing it. Because someone wants to know, especially with the market trends as they are right now. For how much longer, I don't know, but for now, the numbers are still pretty good. Your days on market statistics at any one point in time in any place throughout the area is like a month, sometimes lower, depends on the neighborhood. And that's good information, but people don't know that. People know what they see on the national news. So, think about what you want to target in here. There's certainly a way to do it. I just don't have all these different, ideas all in my head, but showing you how you can find the different fields may give you an idea for what you want to target, who you want to target. If any of you are veterans, targeting those veterans, you guys just, veterans, they just stay together. They stay close, they trust one another. I respect that. And so if you are a veteran or, a wife of a veteran or, your whole family, we're in the military, targeting those veterans, those people who have those veterans exemptions, that's a great idea. And if you didn't know that that was a field in here, you wouldn't have known to do it. And then you just changed your whole strategy and you focus on only those people. So that's a good idea too. It all depends on what you can search by when you start to consider what you want, who you want to touch. And even if it's just a blanket mail piece and just, introducing yourself, or you're new in the area, or you've been around the area for 20 years, and however you're presenting yourself, it could get expensive if you hit every single door. So simply knowing how to filter out the people who don't own the properties, or the people who do own the properties, or when it's sold, whatever the case. People are more interested in market statistics if they're interested in the market. Well, you're not interested in the market if you just bought the place. Just bought the place, you're breathing a sigh of relief because it's over. So, the last thing anybody wants, the last thing anybody in that position wants to do is meet another real estate agent, right? So, it's all about what you want to do, in my opinion, and you have to, there's probably a field that will allow you to filter out or filter in that situation. So, that's been my experience. So, does anybody have any other questions? Program's really not that big other than that. Either you're finding one property worth of information, or you're doing a search like this and you're finding a bunch of addresses to, it's really all about mail. That's why this class even exists. It's how do we target certain people so we can mail to them. I know agents out there that are members of this association. They mail consistently and it is effective. Most of those individuals live in the area to target. You're my guy. You live down the street. You've probably walked into most of these properties on this street in this neighborhood. If you don't know, I mean I've talked. I'm sort of in the process of well buying and selling really, and so I've been meeting a couple of our members, but I don't tell them who I am. I've met some that kind of don't give off the vibe that they know much. And some give off the vibe that they know everything about the neighborhood because they can say they know this person, they know this person. They've been in half the properties in the neighborhood. They will work in the neighborhood since it was being developed. If you can have those kind of conversations, that's key. So if you can start to meet those people and start it through mail, that's very effective. So living in the neighborhood that you target is a good start. If they don't have a sign ordinance, put a damn sign in the front yard. Just don't put for sale. Just think outside the box. But it's certainly it certainly is. That's one way it's effective. So, does anybody have any more questions? That's really it for me in terms of what's available to you. So, if no more questions, that's it for me. All right, hopefully it's not raining outside for you guys, but it sounds like it's not, or it doesn't sound like it is. So, if you have no more questions, that's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
When you print the labels, do you do it through machine just for each envelope, or do you print
Nope.
a sheet of labels?
When you, envelopes are labeled, two different things. Okay, well, if everyone wants to listen to answer this question, if you know a little bit about how a mail merge works, I'll tell everyone how this mail merge thing works. Because if you want to use, it's not always just a postcard. Sometimes it's a letter. Sometimes people are doing some handwritten letters. I love that. Even on a blank sheet of paper, not even lined paper. I love it. The way a mail merge works is you get your list of results. So you're not going to create labels. You're going to export them, right? You're going to export. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a CSV file, which you open in Excel. Now you have your results in Excel. You can probably Google how to do a mail merge in Microsoft Office, and you can watch a video of people do it. But what's going to happen is the Excel spreadsheet and your blank Word doc, not a blank Word document because you typed it in. And so what you're going to do is they're going to link together. And you have a list of 100 people, for instance. And as it prints out, it's going to print out a letter with the heading with their information, the body, and the signature. Well, the mail merge function in Word, because now they're attached, but now you're working in Word, there's a little wizard that pops up. And you can assign the first name field, space, drag over the last name field, next line, address, next line, city, comma, space, zip. And so you're dragging over what's called a short code. You're not actually typing anything in there. You would type in first name, space, last name. You're going to put short code, space, short code, next line, short code, next line, short code, comma, space. Is everyone kind of following what I'm saying? You have to see it to really know what I'm talking about. But what you're going to do is exactly that. Follow the steps in the wizard, and when you print, out comes the letter with first name, last name, that corresponds to number 1. The next one comes out, all the information corresponds to number 2. So that's how they link, is those short codes correspond to what your list is. When you export your list, name the columns if they're not named exactly how they should be, like first name, last name. You just rename them and save it, and then when they link, the short codes will correspond to the names of the columns. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. So that's how a mail merge works. So, like I said, there is a difference between mail merging and just printing your labels. If you just create labels, it's going to give you a Word document with 3 names by 10
You
rows.
can do that.
Yeah. It formats it formats the information to come out in a Word document, put your labels in instead of paper, and it prints out perfect. But the mail merge for envelopes, if you're actually going to put envelopes in a printer, and it would print out everything on the envelope, and like this, plenty of times where I've needed envelopes and letters. Well, the finished result is a stack of 100 envelopes and 100 letters, and they're in the exact same order. One letter folded, first one, so it's all in order, right? So you do a mail merge, you print envelopes, and you work off that same document, don't change anything, and you print, and you're gonna print letter. So you can print different ways too. If you, YouTube's a great resource for this kind of stuff. I say that like you can't exactly go and show it. It'll take you a law secretary. It'll cost a little bit more, but it's good because people, it actually pays to potentially make money off the YouTube channel that you have. A lot of these marketing companies out there will make YouTube channels, and they'll put good information on it because they want you to watch the whole thing and make you go, oh, geez, let me just call and let them do it. But if you don't want to do that, they'll give you good information. They give you good information regardless of whether you actually have that thought or not. So Google's a great resource, and then tab over to video results. Google owns YouTube, so that's why you see all those YouTube videos.
I'm kind of a Mac person, my iPad and all that, and it comes up totally different.
It's the mobile version of Realist is not the full version. Don't use the mobile version. Use it on a full computer. The mobile version, I haven't really ever used it, but I'm pretty sure that the mobile version is nothing more than a search tool for individual properties. It's really only half the pro.
Right.
The mobile version, it's not, you can't do all this good stuff. So use the full version. And there's a way to, for anybody who cares about mobile devices and how they work. It knows that you're on a mobile device. So certain websites, if a mobile device is not, if a website is not mobile optimized, it'll show you like half the website and you have to move it like this. That's not a mobile optimized website. Some are, and they just resize themselves. Some reformat completely.
This one's totally.
Like Matrix Mobile, your external links, you have Matrix Mobile. That's just the mobile version of the full MLS. It looks completely different. Some companies and programmers out there, their websites, they'll program them to look completely different. Nowadays, like WordPress style sites and stuff, they just compress, but they look the same. But some reformat the whole thing. That's what is happening on yours. It reformats the whole thing. There's a way you can go in and tell it to not reformat. I don't know. Really smart, techy person would know. I'm not there. I used that. Someone showed me once, but I completely forget. It's a little bit of code work, but it's pretty simple. But that's what's happening. So on your mobile devices, if you're using it on a mobile device. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If we give out that overlay to our clients,
It's linked to you, right?
totally linked to us.
Yep.
Nobody,
They
okay.
download the
It
same
doesn't
app,
matter.
but it's like linked to you. It recognizes that it's a
Right, so
customer.
anything would always come back to us. If we go to another agency, it always link back to us, right?
Yep.
I thought it was, I wanted to make sure.
It's not yet.
Sorry.
I got one check.
It is, it's just not here.
What I've been able to do, because I wanted to do it, is I can email it to myself and then only then one check comes out. But it's customer. What is a more effective way?
When you email a report, you would email the customer report. We're not in the business of handing out realtor reports. So that's the default report that you get when you email it.
Okay, well, I'm looking for 4 properties. Now I
Sure.
wanna set them up, and I've got 40 bidders, so what is,
She wants to be beautiful.
I wanna do just the 4. Now I wanna narrow them down, so I'm dummying things
To
to
do what?
whatever it is I wanna do. Whether I wanna call them and set appointments, or if I just look at them, I'm looking at
Active
variables.
listings?
Yeah. Is
Want
there
to call
no,
an active listing?
is there no tips?
No. I'm trying to ask specific questions because I want to be specific to answer because I'm kind of struggling to figure out the exact answer.
Okay, well, like here's.
What do you want? You just want to see 4 of them.
Right.
You got
Yeah, I
20
wanna get
results
rid
you
of
want to
all
see.
the rest.
Check off the ones you don't want.
Okay. Check off.
Just arbitrarily do it or really do it.
Okay, here's 4 I want. So let's, for this sake, let's assume there's 10 there I want, and 4 I don't want. I mean, which way, it's usually you check the one you want.
So,
Yeah,
Just
I'm
to-
with you. See, that's why well, you backed it up on this card.
Well, okay, now I just want one, so, I clicked off of the ones. that
It's
I-
quicker to select all of them than deselect the ones you want to keep. You're discarding, so you want to select.
Okay, so I wanna, so the ones that are checked is the ones I'm discarding.
Oh, okay. Okay, then there.
So it's yours to two.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
And now I can
Simple,
pull
just
that,
digital.
Thank you.
I've got Monday open right now, but I'm about to put up the solicitation right now. I'm gonna put that up. So keep sending one.
That's you.
Yeah, so you know, you see it, should be up in a little while.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So that we can't call you every time, I know you said you put it up online. But
If
you don't have
I'm-
to be on- If you don't have to be on the MLS at that, then I want you, it's kind of hard to.
Thing is, when I'm ready to set it up, when I sit down and set it all up, I look at my next week, I figure out the day, and then that's when I advertise the day. I figure out the date 5 minutes before I advertise that I'm setting something
Right,
up.
I couldn't shoot you an email and say, hey, whenever you get your next.
I have no way to file that away.
No way to file, that's all right.
And I
Just
don't
thought
want to lose you, so I never say, I don't want to lose anybody in that kind of situation. And,
Right.
you know, one email an hour ago today will get swallowed up by the end of the day.
Sure.
You know how.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to
Or
lose
voicemail, or,
anything.
I was just thinking, you could kind of put yourself in.
I don't
You know
necessarily.
what I'm saying? 'Cause-
If I had an
because
if I had an
this is meetings
assistant-
in 5 or 10 minutes, if I'm not on the
Yeah.
MLS at that point, you're gone for next week, right?
I hear you.
That's-
I hear you. But like today's situation, I already knew like yesterday that I was gonna do next Wednesday. So I know right now that I'm gonna do next Wednesday. So that's, you know, if you catch me like that too. So I can plug you in for next Wednesday if you want to.
No, actually, this probably gives us some stuff where we work up more questions and then.
Yes.
Well, the
Or
one-
if you've got specifics,
Well, that's, she
Just-
got
just
one-
type-
that
type
simple
everything
thing
into an
right
email.
there, she just didn't, it's just.
we can set up a call to them. If I've got like 20 minutes, you know, throughout a day, and you know, send me an email and ask a bunch of questions, and I'll look at it. And this is, we should just totally talk
Oh,
about
that's
it
fine
for
too,
5
yeah,
minutes.
exactly.
So figure out some specific
Yeah,
questions.
we're just trying to,
and then I'll-
it's a struggle,
Have you guys gone to orientation? You're a new
Yes.
member here.
Yes.
You went some
yes, I went through the orientation, that's why we said
Well,
mobile app, I wanted to make sure.
I
this-
started in the meetups.
Oh, so you
There.
don't have to go.
Well, which is fine, I went to some of the classes down there.
Cause I was telling her.
But it's good.
Yeah,
No.
he's good, yeah.
I don't
Um,
know.
can't remember his name, but I had an injury, so I've been kind of in and out since I.
Yeah,
went to-
you don't use
One of the
it.
best things that he taught me, and I'm sure you know how to do it, but telling other people, it's kind of like, you know how sometimes you're looking and you're working with this buyer and all of a sudden somebody calls and wants to know about something. And when if you go hit the MLS, if you go hit Matrix on another tab, you lose but if you copy and paste that URL, open it up on another tab and then do whatever you want, you don't lose the other.
All you have to do is this.
I mean, that's, well.
No, all you have to do is this. If I want to start another search right now because someone else called me, I don't want to open. I don't want to get off this. I don't want to lose anything. Click, but you right click, open a new tab.
Okay.
And now I just opened a search in a new tab.
Oh,
That works too.
So that's even easier.
That's easy.
Now that's a browser function. So if I'm reading an article, if I'm reading like you know, something on CNN or something like that, and I want to, there's something in that article and there's a hyperlink to what they're talking about, and I want to keep that article open, I right click on the hyperlink instead of left click. When you left click it, it just okay,
Yeah,
let's
it
go
just
there.
takes you there,
When
yeah.
you right click on whatever, it gives me the menu that you just saw, and then you can open that link and you're going to do the same thing, but with this new tab.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
That's just a,
that's a function of any
yeah, and
Firefox,
again, yeah, that's,
Chrome, whatever. So
Right.
that's not like an MLS function, but what I like about the MLS and certain other programs don't do this is that if I go like Agent 3000 is an example because that happened to me and it took me on. I'm in my own profile. I got someone who's going to come in and sit down. I want to show them something. Well, I want to log in theirs. So I'll just open another Agent 3000 and I'll start working in theirs. I can't be logging in 2 different accounts. But with the MLS, it doesn't touch my other tab up there. It doesn't make me lose my place and log me out or anything like that. So they sit independent of each other, which is nice.
So you figured out how to use my emails differently?
Yeah, they got me set up with that. Yeah. When I called in to the board, yeah, because I was gonna ask him the other day, and then he said for actual login and that, it wasn't him, it was the other gals right there, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure.
Okay, there's something else I want